The Leafs finish off the Sens in Game 6. Was that the most impressive win of the season? We'll discuss that and break down the 4-2 win that sent the Buds into the second round. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike Stefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. The Maple Leafs have entered round 2. They punched their ticket with a 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators that clinched the series 4-2 as well. And the Maple Leafs come up victorious in the Battle of Ontario. And Dave, I thought they played excellent tonight to close it out.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt, boys.
No, never? Not for a second, Dave.
Never.
I gotta tell you, when David Perron scored to make it 2-2, my head was in my hands, and I'm thinking to myself, are they really gonna do this again? Are they really going to do this again to us? Where it looks like everything's going well, they're playing great, they're 5 minutes away from winning this hockey game, going on to round 2, taking care of business, and then all of a sudden a terrible goal from a bad angle Perron banks it off of Stolarz and in, and you're thinking that's the back-breaking goal that we know and love from Maple Leafs goaltenders. That's what Freddie Anderson used to do, Ilya Samsonov used to do. That was exactly what I was expecting to happen if I were a Leafs pessimist. But what I wasn't expecting and what I loved to see was the response, Dave. The response. Not long after, the Maple Leafs went out there and scored a goal to respond and take the lead back, and that was something that this team has not really quite done over the course of the last few years. We talk a lot about, are things different? That was another one of those, checked boxes where it's like, okay, that's different. They were able to put, those bad situations, those bad plays in the rearview mirror and go out and play the next shift. And they did so, and it was a big-time response goal from them.
And how did it happen? It wasn't because, we talked a lot about how the core four, the core need to step up. Guess what? It was somebody other than the core.
Yeah.
Somebody other than the core in those final moments that stepped up. And that to me, I think, is kind of puts the cherry on top of it, right? Because it kind of proves what Craig Berube said going into this game. Everyone, it's a team. We're a team. Everyone has to step up and do it. And it just makes kind of like Max Pacioretty just poetic in so many different ways for him to be the one to get the goal that puts them ahead. Guy probably was never looking to play hockey, probably thought his career was done.
He did. He said that today post-game. He thought there was a point where he figured he was not going to be able to get back and play again. And he
might not have played another game this season after suffering an injury and not even in a game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he probably thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back into this lineup. And he does. And, there were some people saying, get him out. Like, he's not really doing much. Get Nicky Bobby back in there. I think Nicky Bobby's going to be seeing a little more time up at the press box now.
Probably, especially against a hard-nosed team like the Florida Panthers. I'm not sure Nicky Bobby matches up well against them, but credit to Coach Berube. He had something up his sleeve, and he had an inkling that maybe Pacioretty moving up to the second line might help this team. and it certainly did. You look at the goal that William Nylander scored, like that's Pacioretty applying pressure to Nick Jensen, forcing a turnover, and gets the puck over to Willie, who fires it home. A great shot, obviously, but that play made by Pacioretty to give him that opportunity. So that was, one play that was made. He put the puck off the post in the first period. Thought he was inches away from a goal in the first period, inches away, and just couldn't bury, hits the post. But then in the third period, he makes the play, gets the game-winning goal. So he made big plays, and he made, you heard his name throughout the game. And each period, he came up and made a play and made the biggest one of all, obviously, with the game-winning goal there in the third. But I think we got to give a lot of credit to the other Max, too, Domi, who, listen, he's gotten a lot of flack for the way that he's played so far in this series. He hasn't been good at all. And even in tonight's game, wasn't great. But the third period, that line kind of came alive. When Pacioretty went down there, they kind of came alive a little bit. They had a couple of good shifts in a row. And then finally, Max Domi wins a big-time battle below the goal line and ends up getting the puck up to Pacioretty to score. But, again, Max Domi making the play below the goal line to make it happen. So I think both Maxes deserve a lot of credit for this Maple Leafs win just based on that one play alone.
It's the composure, right? They both showed. Pacioretty, I'm sure he was frustrated after that first post, but he makes a big play on the Willie goal, as you said. And then Domi, he misses that opportunity to score on the 2-on-1, sticks with the play. What did we say, Mike? Go ahead, win some puck battles, get the Senators scrambling a bit with turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what led to that goal, right? Pacioretty gets himself freed up in the high slot there, and Ullmark didn't have time to react to the shot. Like it's just everything we said. Kind of that one play kind of encapsulated everything we said that this team needed to start doing more of, and that's probably what made that whole play so satisfying.
Yeah. I would say the whole game really was a lot of checked boxes, right? Like we look at what has plagued this team, not only through the last 2 games of this series, but also over the course of the last 8 years prior to this one, right? Like the core 4 didn't score. Well, they got it, right? Matthews scores. The power play has been awful. Was it 0 for 30 in closeout games and elimination games with this core? Well, they get their first opportunity and they end that streak. They score on the power play. And it was Auston Matthews, of all people. So a core 4 member providing some offense in the closeout game. And then they get a little insurance with William Nylander scoring in the second period. Obviously gets, the empty net goal as well. So 3 of your 4 goals tonight came from the big boys. It's exactly what you wanted to see. So that was one thing that we looked for was, can the core 4 provide some offense for this team tonight? They're going to have to do that. They did. They got something going on the power play. Another thing that we wanted to see tonight. It happened. They got a goal from their depth. Max Pacioretty stepping up and getting, 1 goal. It turned out to be a difference maker, right? They got the depth goal, and it turned out to be a difference maker. You only allowed 22 shots, so defensively, you're pretty stout. And outside the Perron goal, Anthony Stolarz is pretty sharp tonight. So you got good goaltending. So you got great defensive play, total buy-in from the team. Defensively, goaltending was great, and offensively, I thought all 4 lines contributed throughout the entire game. So I thought for sure this was the most complete game we've seen from the Maple Leafs. It was a full team effort. I like the way they played, and if they can do this in the next round, they'll have a chance to beat the defending champions. I'm not saying they should be favored or that they will, but they certainly have a chance if they can play like that.
Yeah, and I know that so many people talking about it only gets harder. Well, yeah, this is generally what happens when you move on to the next round. It doesn't get easier. But what you see in this series, like I know a lot of people, they look at Florida and how good they play, and they certainly did play really well. Tampa not exactly was playing peak, high level hockey. And Ottawa played well in this series. Like they made it hard on Toronto. Yep. Kind of the way that Florida will make it hard on Toronto.
Yep.
A lot of similarities in like how the 2 teams play. Now, Florida does have a lot more talent in a lot of areas, but I think what the Leafs went through in this series some people, and I heard Bonesy and Ralph after they were in studio with you, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
they were in
yes.
studio with us.
So like I heard after I was on the car ride home, just hearing
Listen to me on the post game with Jim Taddy.
Yeah, quite a few people, heard you with Tat Man. That was great. And like hearing the Bonesy say, like it was kind of good that they went through the adversity. I love Bones. Like, yeah, I don't think Craig Berube said, boys, let's make this harder on ourselves. But sometimes the teams that are battle tested prove to have are in a better position, right? I think you kind of look at when Florida beat Boston a few years ago. That was a team that was on a high, right? Florida's definitely got a lot of momentum after what they did to Tampa. But I think if you're the Leafs, you're feeling pretty good about yourselves too. That you earned, like you had to earn that series victory over Ottawa. It wasn't gifted.
Yeah, no, it wasn't at all. They had to earn it. They had to go out there, battle, work, and it paid off. Ultimately, it certainly paid off here in Game 6. They were a no-show for the most part in Game 5, especially a couple of their big boys, but they stepped up. I thought William Nylander and Auston Matthews, two guys we were pretty hard on after Game 5. They came to play today, and they had 3 of the 4 goals that the Maple Leafs scored. So, and I believe Craig Berube even said after the game, our captain led us. Captain led us the way. So the Maple Leafs with a 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators. Before we turn the chapter on the series and start to look ahead to Florida, we'll continue to break down the game on the other side with the good, the bad, the ugly, and a very strange pre-game incident that nearly cost William Nylander a chance to play tonight. We'll tell you about that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know that Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your pair controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA College Sports 25, Chell 25, or Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite TV shows. What if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? Ever want to try out some games without the big upfront investment in a console? Fire TV Stick 4K can be a low-pressure way to start exploring. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike Stefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get a podcast. You can also find the Locked On Leafs podcast on YouTube as well. And Dave, I'm glad we get to continue to do post-game shows throughout the entirety of the playoffs because the Maple Leafs, with a 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators in Game 6, eliminates Ottawa 4-2, and they're now what's that? A cool 5-0 in the Battle of Ontario. Is that 5-0 now or 4-0? It doesn't matter. Either way, they're undefeated in the Battle of Ontario when it comes to the postseason, when it really matters. So all that smack that Ross and Pillsy over on Locked On Sens talking about how, Toronto couldn't win in the regular season. They had lost 5 straight games in the regular season to Ottawa. And coming into it, we said, hey, if there's one thing the Maple Leafs know, it's that the regular season and playoffs are completely different. And what you do in the regular season means nothing come April. And it meant nothing when all said and done because the Leafs make quick work of the Senators. They win in 6, and they're moving on to take on the Florida Panthers in round 2. We don't know exactly when round 2 will begin. That has yet to be decided and announced, but we will know over the weekend and be sure to break it down once we do. Let's finish up and put a bow on the series, though. There was an interesting pregame situation that occurred. Would you like to explain what happened and why William Nylander almost did not get to play tonight, which, based on the game he had for Toronto, that would have been ugly if he would have been pulled at the start of the game.
Yeah, very weird incident in terms of the team Obviously, the Leafs called up a bunch of players from the Marlies. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but like half the Marlies were called up as part of the Black Aces. And there is an Alex Nylander who plays for the Marlies.
Yes,
Same last name.
Willie.
Same last name as Willie. So Craig Berube made a little boo-boo. He got, old brain, sometimes you get the two guys mixed up. So Alex Nylander was put in the lineup. Well,
which I'm confused. Is it just like a drop-down menu here? Like how are these lineups not written out?
It is submitted electronically.
But like a drop-down menu? How do you mix that up? If you're typing in the lineup or whoever is doing it is typing it in, you don't make that mistake, man. Like that's insane.
No, and so essentially what happened was somebody caught it and was just like, "You got the right one here," and Craig Berube was like, "Whoops, I got the wrong one." And if it didn't get caught in time, and if the Leafs had actually played with Alex Nylander in the lineup, William Nylander would have had to have sat out the game.
Yeah. So essentially pregame, when the Leafs submitted the official lineup, the official roster for tonight, Alex Nylander was on the active roster. William Nylander was listed among the healthy scratches. And I guess at some point the official came over and was like, is that what you're doing tonight? And they're nope, let's make that change. But that would have been something. Could you imagine right at puck drop if they would have talked about how William Nylander couldn't play in this game? And oh my God, it would have been the leafiest thing of all time. But no, they caught it. And it was crisis averted because Willie turned out to have his best game of the series. It was a big reason for why the Leafs won the game tonight. That's very obvious. Speaking of, I'm sure he'll pop up here in just a moment. Let's get to our 3 stars from the Leafs 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators. Dave, who's your first star?
I'm going to give it to Willie and Auston.
Yeah.
I'm
going to go
both for this stat alone from Sportsnet Stats.
Okay.
Leafs improved to 5-0 in the postseason when Auston Matthews and William Nylander score in the same game.
You're telling me that over 9 years, those two have only scored in the same game twice?
5 times. 5-0.
Five times? That's it? That's kind of wild. Like,
it just goes to show.
That paints a picture, doesn't it?
It paints a picture that when your best players are potted in the goals, not just individually, but when they do it together, when we do it together as a team, good things happen. Auston Matthews, that goal, I don't think that was a shot. I personally don't think it was. Some people say maybe he was just trying to find that opening. I think he was trying to go for a deflection.
Yeah, based on the fact that it was along the ice would probably suggest that.
But it worked out beautifully.
It worked out, right? Ullmark peeked left, and the shot came right and was on it. Ullmark, too, like he should have, before he peeked left, he should have sealed off that post. Like that's kind of a mistake by Ullmark there. Definitely should have sealed off the post just in case Matthews did that, or even a tip occurs and it ends up there. But also nifty little play by Nice to just lift his skate ever so slightly to allow that puck to kind of glide underneath and just fit it inside the post there. And even on Willie's goal, like there is a puck-sized hole in between the pad and the glove of Linus Ullmark, and somehow Willie found it. Like that was so perfectly placed in between the pad and the glove. I'm still not sure how the hell that made it through Ullmark. I'm sure he's not really sure how that happened either. But what a shot from Willie there to make it 2-0 there with that goal. And the effort even on the game, clincher, I guess, the empty net goal. Like
I look back and I listened to Bonesy's call on not only on the goal, but before the goal, where Nylander had the first miss.
Yeah.
Joe Bowen, I thought I'm picturing a man on his knees pleading to the hockey gods and pleading to William Nylander to please end this game.
Yes.
And he finally did it.
Yes, he did.
So
were you surprised, by the way, that Travis Green didn't call a timeout in that
I
moment?
was shocked.
Yeah, like you're down by a goal, 30 seconds. The Leafs just ice it. How you don't call a timeout there to try and draw up the perfect play is befuddling to me. Like that's I don't know if he just
He was trying
forgot,
to take advantage of a tired unit.
but they weren't that tired. Like they had just gotten out there. They
I
were
know.
maybe on the ice for what, 15, 20 seconds? Like it's not like they were out there for 2 minutes.
It was befuddling to me in that you're not guaranteed that is going to be the final whistle, right? Like you have to be sure when you don't take that timeout that you get another opportunity a little later to take a timeout, and it didn't happen. Like that's one of those moments where it's like that's a coach, and look, we can't even say an inexperienced coach. This guy has coached in the playoffs before.
Yeah,
This was just a moment where he overthought the situation. Like
Yeah.
I was expecting, all right, here comes a timeout. The Sens are going to try to drop the play. It didn't happen. And
you know what that was, Dave? You know what that was? It's a bit of a Keefism. A little bit of a Keefism right there. A little bit. Yeah, I mean, Willie and Auston for sure. You can give them the first star, absolutely. I mean, I'll jump on that bandwagon because I had them both. I had like 5 guys I wanted to shout out, so I'll join you in tossing Willie and Auston together as the first star. And again, like Craig Berube came out and said, we were led by our captain, Auston Matthews, scored the opening goal. You know, it was on the power play, which I think was powerful, and I thought that top line, you know, right from the get-go was playing with purpose tonight, which they were not doing the other night, especially Auston Matthews. But they played with purpose and in both ends of the ice, and I thought they were excellent. So both those two who needed a response game after a very lackluster Game 5 performance, they stepped up big and led the team to victory. So for sure, those two can get our first star. The second star, I guess, Max Pacioretty can get the second star here. Ends up with a goal and an assist, and you know, we weren't sure if it was the right call for him to be put up on the second line. I was questioning it all day, but turns out Craig Berube knows a little bit more about hockey than I do, and he knows how to press buttons, and he knows how to get the most out of people. And Max Pacioretty with probably his best game as a Maple Leaf tonight, and again, a helper on the Nylander goal, and then scores the game winner. I mean, you can't ask any more of Pacioretty in this one. That you know, he was pretty great.
Yeah, you know, he hadn't looked that good or that impactful since he was playing with John Tavares and William Nylander. So I think this was Craig Berube trying to rekindle that chemistry.
Yeah,
I got another stat here for you, Mike.
Shoot.
That was Max Pacioretty's 4th career series clinching goal.
Mr. Clutch.
That reminds me now, not to the exact, because I think the player I'm about to reference had a little bit more of a magic to him. Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7.
Yes.
You had a Game 7. You wanted Justin Williams on your team.
Yeah.
For a team that doesn't have a player that has come up in those series clinching wins.
Well,
it's nice.
And also, you think about Pacioretty, and I don't know how many playoff games he was playing in Montreal. Like, I guess he had that run in 2013, I suppose. Was that 2013, 2000, 2009? Anyways, he had a run with Montreal, which I suppose he had a chance to do it.
2013-14 is what you're thinking.
Yeah, and then what? Vegas? I guess he ended up playing a couple series with Vegas.
4 times he was in the playoffs of Montreal. Twice the series went past this first round. Yeah, and then Vegas. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 series with Vegas, 1 with Washington last year.
So basically, like, he's ended almost every series that he's won, almost.
Yeah,
like nearly.
Pretty much. Yeah, 20. Like when he played with Vegas, he had some really good moments with Vegas in the playoffs.
Yeah. Clutch, man. Clutch player. And he came up big for Toronto tonight. And my third star, Dave. I'm going to give it to Coach Craig Berube, and it's because of his decision to put Max Pacioretty up on the second line, and then the in-game adjustment to realize, okay, the legs might not be there for Pacioretty, but guess what? Bobby McMahon's had a pretty good game tonight, his best of the series. Let's toss him back up there with Nylander and Tavares. We'll drop Pacioretty down to the third line, and that gave them a little bit of a spark, and that allowed for them to end up getting that game-winning goal. So there was a lot of in-game adjustments, pre-game making that adjustment, and then just the way that he was line matching all night didn't allow Ottawa to really muster up anything. I think they had 10 high-danger chances tonight, so he did a good job of getting the players he wanted out there against the Tkachuks, against the Stutzlas. They beat him once, right? Tkachuk got the one goal, on the tip, but for the most part, Craig Berube outcoached Travis Green mightily. And I also want to say this too. Craig Berube, I think, is a big reason for why the Maple Leafs had such a quick response after that David Perron goal. Because so many times we've seen the Leafs fold after giving up that goal. Last year in the playoffs, right? They were up 1-0. Willie scored late in the third, and then they gave up that backbreaker late to allow Boston to tie it up and bring it to overtime. And then the Leafs just weren't really ready and prepared for OT, and that thing ended pretty abruptly. Berube didn't let that happen. I can't help but feel that afterward he sat there and he said, "It's all good, boys. We'll get that back." His calming presence calmed everyone else on the bench. And I truly believe that that was the reason why they were able to go out and respond so quickly. And they kind of took the game back in their hands after Perron had scored. And they said, "All right, we gave you one. We'll get it back, and then we'll close this thing out." I just think Craig Berube is a big reason for that.
I do. You see his impact. You see why he was brought in, right? Why you had a coach like this can have success in the playoffs. He took a team. I think it was, I can't remember who was saying it. Like, you're talking about a guy who found a way to get a team that was last in the NHL to go on and win a Stanley Cup. I remember everyone was talking about he's not the biggest X's and O's guy.
Yeah,
doesn't need to be. Like, you need a guy that's got to be able to handle the moments, handle the personalities in the room, handle, the adversity, help the guys understand what it takes to go through the adversities that a playoff series is going to throw your way. So I do agree. Like, that was probably what, like, when you look at this series specifically, like, when you see the lack of panic, guys not really falling for the sky is falling narrative. Like, everyone in the media is going to talk about it. These guys, not a single inkling of it. Nothing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out one other stat since we're heavy on the stats tonight. This year, the Maple Leafs in 1-goal games, 22-4-4 in 1-goal games. 22-4-4. You know what they were last year?
Not as good.
19-6-10. That's the difference, right? That's the difference, right? Like, Berube knows how to close things out, and they're also 28 1-1 when leading after 40 minutes of play. 28 1-1. So a lot of that to me is coaching and the systems brought in by Berube, and is a big reason for why this team was able to kind of, check a lot of those boxes off this year that hadn't necessarily been there, right? Those demons that were roaming around within the Maple Leafs heads, Berube kind of did a good job extinguishing those fires for this group tonight, calming them. And I think is a big reason for why this team was able to win and kind of corral themselves and get it done here in Game 6. Because so many times we've seen the team, think back to Montreal, they pissed it away. They're up 3-1, and lost that series. They made sure that they did not let that happen this time around. And I think the coach is a big reason for it. And I think that's why they have a much better chance against Florida next year in the next round than they did a couple of years ago. We'll get to that in just a moment. But who's your third star, Dave?
Oh, so many choices for me. Man, I have a whole list here.
Go ahead. Give me a bunch of honorable mentions if you need be.
Okay. Well, okay. First, we got to give kudos to I mean, we did talk about Domi, but yeah, Bob McMahon, you brought him up. Again, I thought he should have scored a lot more than he didn't score, but I thought he looked
Effective.
like a different player.
Yeah.
Right. Would play with a lot more purpose in this game. So I thought that was crucial for him. Simon Benoit again.
Yep.
Unreal. Like he's continued to elevate his play. I'm not worried about Simon Benoit on the ice as much as I was in the regular season. That's somebody who's elevated his play in the playoffs. But I'll do this. Definitively third star Scott Laughton.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That fourth line again, they were so consistent the whole series. And tonight again, and yeah, Lots has kind of been the catalyst on that line, and it's why they brought him in here. It's why they spent the first round pick and gave up a pretty good prospect to get him. Like Leaf fans didn't quite see it in the regular season, but he was brought in to be a playoff performer, and he's done that. Not in the ways that Auston and Willie can do it, where they can score goals, but in ways where he can put up fires, kill penalties, and apply some pressure, when need be. And I'm with you. I thought he had an excellent game tonight, along with that whole fourth line. Excellent series out of that fourth line, all series long.
That's a fourth line that can go and compete against Florida.
Any line.
Yeah. Like he took the block, that block shot that set up the Willie OT winner. Almost scored again tonight. Had one go off the post. Unbelievable. That's just like the Leafs and the post. Love-hate relationship.
Yeah, they hit like 3 tonight, 4 if you want to include the Domi one off the side of the net. But yeah.
So like he's going. I think he's a guy when you go into this next series. I'm looking for him to have a big impact because you're going to be trying to match up against Florida, and they're a pretty deep team. You got a Scott Laughton now that can help. He's shown his value. Yeah, maybe people are expecting it to come in a higher point of the lineup. At this rate, doesn't matter where. Just have an impact. Be a force on the ice, and that's what he's done.
Yep, absolutely. The one other player I do want to give a shout out to, Chris Tanev. The guy just continues to put fires out every time he's on the ice. It's crazy, man. He's almost like Craig Berube on the ice, right? Just a calming presence. And anytime that he has an opportunity to take the puck away from an Ottawa Senator, he usually did it. Like whether it's so funny. Like in the second period, the Maple Leafs, they kind of did struggle with it was a hard forecheck that was being applied by Ottawa. The first 15 minutes of that period kind of got it going in the second, the final 5 minutes, but they were struggling. They returned the pucks over. I think there was 18 turnovers tonight for the Leafs. It wasn't a clean game from that perspective. A majority of those coming in that second period. But the one guy who just was never making mistakes, though, and would kind of calm things down was Chris Tanev. Even if he lost a forecheck, he lost a race to a loose puck battle on a dump in, he still was able to just rip the puck back and get it out. Right, good pass, get out of the zone, and away you go. It's just he's so calm. He's got a great stick. Chris Tanev has been an excellent addition, and another reason as to why you think Toronto has a better opportunity to beat Florida than they did a couple of years ago. The personnel specifically it will be a much better matchup for Toronto than it was a couple of years ago. So why don't we come back and we can kind of start to look ahead a little bit at Toronto, Florida round 2. We know it's set in stone, just don't know when. But we'll chat about it next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast. The Stanley Cup Playoffs are here, and you've never been to a live NHL playoff game. It's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices usually drop closer you get to puck drop, and with last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off. Their all-in pricing shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout, and the app even allows you to get panoramic seat views so you know exactly what you're buying right before you get the tickets. And with the Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss assurance, or in their 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike Stefano, Dave Morassutti with you. We're reacting to a Maple Leafs 4-2 win over the Ottawa Senators, springboarding them into the second round for just the second time in the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era. They are now 2 for 13 in closeout games. Dave, 2 for 13 in closeout games. Doesn't it sound great to say?
Sure. 213. It's not the best thing to say, but
yeah, you're right. Maybe I misworded that. They're 1 for 1 in their last opportunities. How about that?
they are. How about this? They're on to the second round, and that's all that needs to be said.
Yes, that's probably the better way to say it.
But I get I appreciate the sentiment.
Well, it was just a big talking point, right? Going into it, it's like the Leafs, they can't get it done, right? The closeout games, they're awful. They were 0 for 30 on the power play in those games. They scored a power play goal tonight. They got the win. So couple more doors that they continue to kind of knock down en route to trying to knock down that big door, and that would be something that has not been done since 1967. I'm not going to say the words right now so that people will say that I'm jinxing the team, but you all know what I'm talking about. You know what that door is. That being said, in order to get there, they got to get through the Florida Panthers. And they made pretty quick work of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They beat them in 5 games. But that was a grueling series, Dave. It was a grueling series, and they're probably going to end up getting the whole weekend to rest up, recover, and get ready for this round 2 matchup, Leafs and Panthers. But I truly believe that Toronto is far better equipped, both on the bench and on the ice, with the roster that's been constructed by Brad Treliving up in the press box. This team is far more equipped to handle what the Panthers are going to give them over the next couple of weeks compared to a couple of years back.
Yeah, I think this Leafs team is more prepared to play that heavy style of hockey, right? Yeah. I don't think they were a couple of years ago. I thought the blue line wasn't ready for it. The guys up the I would say not so much the top 6 guys, but more so the bottom 6. Don't think they were really ready for it either. And frankly, you look at the goaltending. I think Anthony Stolarz will be also. He knows exactly what he's in for.
Oh yeah,
right. So I think that's a bonus too. And a couple of things to look out for in this series is who's not going to be available for the Panthers in Game 1 of this series, because somebody has to serve a second game of a suspension.
Yeah, Aaron Ekblad will be unavailable in the first game of the series. You're right. So a little bit of a weakened blue line there for the Panthers. Now they did go out and insulate their blue line with Seth Jones, who's still a pretty good player. He's kind of revamped his career once he ended up in Florida, like a lot of players who have ended up in Florida over the last few years. But so Toronto is definitely going to want to take advantage Game 1 of no Ekblad. That's for sure. And it's going to be on home ice, right? Like Toronto was coming back home regardless. It was either to play Ottawa in Game 7 or to play Florida in Game 1. I'm sure everyone's happy that it's the latter option and not the former. So I'm with you though. I think that Toronto, it certainly looks like it's a team that's more equipped to handle it. And just look at what they did this offseason and through the regular season too. Everything they did was pretty much to, better themselves in the heavy hockey presence. Like going out and getting Chris Tanev, going out and getting Oliver Ekman-Larsson, going out and getting a Max Pacioretty, right? Going out and bringing in Brandon Carlo, Scott Lawton. Like these additions have all given them, veteran experience for one, and it's also given them guys who can play that playoff style of hockey, that hard-nosed hockey that it takes to win in the postseason. We've seen it time and time again, and finally it looks like the Leafs, they've always had the skill, and they still got it, right? Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, they've got the skill. Matthew Nyes has been able to put it all together. He's a guy who's emerged. Bobby McMahon has emerged as one of those players in the bottom six. Steven Lorentz is kind of a new player who's also added, who's a veteran, who's won a cup and has, given some valuable playoff minutes. Everything that they've done over the course of this year has been to give them a better chance to win in the postseason. And it came through in the round 1 win over the Ottawa Senators. We'll see if it can continue through round 2 against the Florida Panthers.
I don't like always looking back to the past too much, but I can't help but feel like this is St. Louis versus Boston back in 2019.
Okay.
Craig Berube, St. Louis Blues going up against the Boston Bruins, right? The Bruins were this heavy, juggernaut team that plays a bruising style, good goaltending, deep team, really good, center ice guys led by Bergeron. Berube found a way to get that Blues team to elevate their game and play to that style.
Yeah,
that they need to play to beat a Brewer. Like, I think what helps is that Berube's seen a matchup like this before and knows what it takes to beat a team of this caliber. He's beaten Brad Marchand in a playoff series.
Oh, how terrible is it that the Leafs they finally don't have to play Boston in the postseason, yet they still run into Brad Marchand. It's gonna look so weird, him in a Florida jersey, strolling out there in the playoffs. It's gonna look so weird.
Like, imagine how Bruins fans feel seeing Brad Marchand factor into that Series 1 win over Tampa, knowing that the Bruins made it easy for Florida to pick up a Brad Marchand.
Oh,
doing March a favor while doing a rival a favor.
Right? Like, second round pick. Like, they gave him nothing. He had 4 points in the 5-game series and was a factor for the Panthers in that first round win for them. I'll say this though, like, they got to find a way to beat Bobrovsky, because a couple of years ago that was the main problem, right? It wasn't necessarily goaltending or defensively. Like, they just simply couldn't score. They didn't score more than 2 goals on Bobrovsky in that entire series. So that's something that certainly the Leafs are going to have to make sure that they do is score more. And it's tough, right? They got to do a lot of what they did tonight. And tonight I noticed that there was certainly far more emphasis on crashing the net, trying to work for those rebound opportunities. You saw, Pacioretty had an opportunity on the rebound that hit the post. Same thing. William Nylander had a rebound opportunity that hit the post. In this game against Florida, or in this series against Florida, you just got to hope that you make good on those chances, those few rebound chances that they have. And that's going to be difficult because that's a team that doesn't let you get inside, right? That's not what they're about. They know we got to clear this thing. Don't allow those second, third opportunities. Don't allow traffic in front of Bobrovsky. So it's going to be a battle. But again, Toronto went out and got some players who are willing to enter the fight on any given night. And we'll see. It's going to be a fun 7-game series. I'm sure we'll catch up with our boy Armando Velez, the Locked On Panthers, at some point, do a little crossover before we get this thing kicked off sometime next week, I'm sure. Again, we don't know exactly at this point.
I was going to say, by the time Monday rolls around, we might either have a game 1 in the books or have a game 1 to prep for.
I don't think it'll be in the books. I could see this stretching out to at least Monday or Tuesday, if I had to guess. I'd be surprised if they gave us a game, because I think it's going to be all eyes game 7. We've got Colorado, Dallas, Colorado, the only team to push it to 7 tonight. There was 3 closeout opportunities. The Leafs did their job. Vegas got the job done. Edmonton got the job done. And the only team that didn't was Dallas. And now you've got Colorado, Dallas Saturday night. That'll be the only game on Saturday as of now, I suppose.
You could have a game 7 between the Blues and the Jets if the Jets don't clear. So that's what I think, because Pierre LeBrun kind of said, like, the Are they going to start the East before the West finishes, though? Or are they going to wait for round 1 before they start round 2? Well, I think that's what, like, Pierre LeBrun was alluding to, is like they probably want to see, like, they don't want a game 7 to be overshadowed by a bunch of round 2 game 1s. Right. And, like, frankly, probably makes sense to start fresh Monday anyways, because you can do a Monday, Wednesday games 1 and 2.
Yeah,
You have
travel.
Thursday, Friday, then you have Saturday is game 3.
Yeah,
Like the
makes sense.
broadcasters definitely like to have the game 7. Oh, sorry, the game 7. The games on the Saturday night. That's
Right.
that's when you want them, right? So
The
I
Leafs
think it makes too
specifically.
much sense.
Yeah.
Makes too much sense.
Yeah.
But we think it's that way, but there
Yeah.
was times last year.
Well, if they start Sunday, I mean, we'll pop on and we'll do a quick preview pod. Either way, there's going to be a podcast to preview the series before it gets underway. So just make sure that you're, subscribed and locked into what's going on in the Locked On Leafs podcast, because I can guarantee you there will be a preview show with ourselves and Armando Velez, the host of the Locked On Panthers, to tee up this series. It's going to be a grueling one, going to be a good one. Maple Leafs, they were not prepared 2 years ago when they faced off against the Florida Panthers in round 2. I think that they'll be ready to go in this one, and they should be in for a fight. The Panthers, they'll be tough to beat. The defending champs for a reason, but I like Toronto's chances. I think they got a shot. At least I think they got an opportunity. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You could subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs on Twitter and on Instagram. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy your weekends, folks. Go Leafs, go. They did it. The Demons died today. Leafs are through to round 2. Next up, Florida. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.